Hi. So, is there a meaning behind everything? Is there a higher meaning behind everything? This is one of those beliefs I used to ascribe to for a long time. I think partly because I've been growing up that way, and it relates obviously to that idea that life is a mirror. And honestly, I must say, now looking at it, it hasn't done me very good. So I want to talk a little bit about the dangers when we take this to its extremes. And I give you a little story with it. So when you start believing that there's meaning behind everything, you also, when things happen in your life that aren't so nice, you try to understand the meaning behind it. And I find that somehow you lose the playfulness, but also you lose that where maybe someone else would just say, oh, you know, shit happens and just moves on. And I remember that I would sit there and really think about and trying to figure out the meaning and what this was supposed to be telling me. And I think sometimes caused more trouble, that way of thinking, than anything else. So I think it was in 2012, I got a car that was a used BMW, and that my cousin had actually found for me. And so I was driving it back from Germany to England. I was still living in England at the time, and I had it just for 3 days, broke down with it 40 kilometers before the ferry port, got stuck in France for 3 weeks, and this car then only caused trouble. I can't tell you how often I went to the garage in England, and I couldn't sell it because I wouldn't want to do the same thing to someone else like that was done to me. But apart from all of this trouble, I kept on comparing what this car was doing, or better said, what it wasn't doing, which was driving, or that you never knew whether it was driving or not. I somehow tried to compare it with my illness I was and still am dealing with, which is the autoimmune condition. And I tried to find, the car became like a metaphor for all sorts of other things. And yes, and now looking backwards, I find it kind of funny, but I also find it kind of sad, because I think I just had been fed with this idea to always relate everything to everything else, you know, and then it's very easy that things become your fault. And looking backwards, I think I never should have taken the car. You know, that was the thing. The circumstances were a little bit not the best. I was given the car and it was said, I give you that car, but you have to decide now. And looking backwards, it was just not a good timing. And I should not have allowed others to pressurize me so much, even if it was coming from a meaning well place. So that's the thing I would change about that now. But it is a very much a belief that there's a meaning behind everything that is very popular in many circles. And I just think that it can foster excessive rumination, I guess, and foster that feeling of, oh, okay, so here's another thing I've done wrong. Whereas in that example, the guy who sold me the car was the one who was wrong. It was the other people who were wrong in a way. And so I just think it's not very helpful. And yes, as I said in the beginning also, I think we lose some playfulness. And yes, there are things that have meaning, and maybe we could combine it with that there are things that just don't make any sense. And I just feel that there's a heaviness. If every single thing has to have a meaning because it is, I don't know, connected with everything else, or whatever the reason is why everything has to have such a deep meaning. But the more everything has a deep meaning, the more heavy things become. And I think, yeah, because playfulness, for example, is that it doesn't make sense. That's the origin of playfulness, is that things don't have to make sense. And so I would say a much more balanced approach would be to say, yes, some things have meaning, and I decide what I ascribe a meaning to, but some things are also senseless, and I just let them go. So I would say now, play a little bit with, it just doesn't make any sense, and but there is some meaning as well. So we can have a little bit of both, meaning and senselessness. So I would love to know whether you have been caught up in that belief of that everything has to have a meaning, or how you approach things, or can you live into that paradox that yes, there's meaning and there's senselessness at the same time. I would love to know. This was Anja Kersten, life coach and artist. Take good care. Bye-bye.